Well, good morning. It's February 16th, 2011. The bird's pretty active this morning. I don't know, I kind of wanted to talk about the J.F.K. assassination and some of my thoughts on that. I remember back whenever I was a kid, I remember whenever that day happened. I was about 8 years old. It was a bad day for everybody. I was in school, and it just kind of shook everybody up. But anyway, living here in small town USA back in the early 60s, 63, my dad, he took me about everywhere with him, when time allowed, like whenever I wasn't in school or something like that. And on weekends we went here and there, check cows, and excuse me. Anyway, he had a lot of friends, and the topic, needless to say, there for several weeks, the top topic was the Kennedy murder. And I remember about Dad and about all his friends when they talked about it, and I didn't understand why they said this until later on in years I looked back at it. But they all were convinced that it was the mob, the mafia, organized crime, whatever you want to call it, that was behind the whole thing. And well, anyway, like I said, I didn't understand for sure why they were saying that. I was just a kid, I didn't know anything. But anyway, now that I've looked back at it and I've put two and two together, I do believe that they were probably right. If you join all the pieces of the puzzle. Number one, let's look at his dad, Joe. Right there's how they pretty much made their fortune, was bootleg whiskey out of Canada. That's no big secret. And anyway, J.F.K, he just said that they were going to crack down on organized crime. And it's not a good idea to bite the hand that feeds you. That can have dire consequences. Well, anyway, we all know he was killed in Dallas, and everybody blamed it on Lee Harvey Oswald. Anyway, enough of that. Let's move on down the road to Bobby Kennedy. Well, he was campaigning. He was doing the same thing. Boy, they're going to crack down on organized crime. And because something that him and his brother John had started, and damn, he was going to finish it. And I was going to do all this stuff. Well, we all know what happened to him. He got shot. And anyway, let's take it just a little bit further. And this is where it really gets interesting as far as I'm concerned. Let's look at Ted Kennedy. Well, he kind of was jumping up and down and squawking about organized crime too. And anyway, the deal with Chappaquiddick and Mary Jo Kopechne, I always thought that whole situation was just a little bit odd. Dad had a different look at it than I did, and maybe he was right. He thought that Ted Kennedy deliberately drove that car off of the bridge and drowned her on the simple fact that she was probably pregnant and he didn't want to own up to it. And I don't really think that's much of the case there, because in my opinion, the two things that really stand out more in my mind about that than anything else, there were never any real good pictures of that car. They showed it, that night, and they was winching it out of the water and all that kind of stuff with the wrecker. But they never did have any real definitive pictures of it during the day and examine, good close-ups of the car. It's just kind of all muddy and nasty and all that kind of stuff. And it even gets more bizarre with Mary Jo Kopechne, that there was never an autopsy ever allowed on that woman. And I've often wondered why. in my own opinion, you know, opinions are exactly what you pay for them. They're, you know, not worth much, I don't guess. But anyhow, wherever they were at, I think that, I guess there was some social gathering or something that I'm not real clear on. But anyhow, I think that Ted, as we all know, he liked to bend the elbow a little bit and have a, it wasn't nothing unusual for him to have a toddy out every once in a while. Matter of fact, I think he spoke on the floor a few times whenever he was about half lit. But anyway, I think he was probably just a little bit too tipsy to drive, and I think she was driving. And I don't believe that whoever, in my opinion, if this is the case, that they didn't take into account that she might have been driving that car. I have a funny feeling she was shot and she went off the road. And the reason Ted Kennedy didn't mention anything about that, because he remembered what happened to his two brothers previously. It was a bad deal. But also, if you keep this in mind, after that, Ted Kennedy, not one time, to the best of my knowledge, ever mentioned the phrase organized crime or the mafia or the mob. None of it. It was just a dead issue. He never ran any more than where he retired from. He didn't aspire to be president or anything else. He just kind of more or less kept his mouth shut, and that was it, and there wasn't any more problem. But if you look at all three things, the way that they happened, I think that's a fairly you know, fairly good theory on what happened. A lot of people say that LBJ did it, you know, he was behind it. I don't believe that. I don't think that there was any government conspiracy to kill J.F.K. or Bobby or anything like that. Like I said, I think Dad was actually right. But now, as we all know, you talk about government and the mob. On occasion, there has been a few uneasy alliances between the organized crime and our government. And World War II was a good example of it, because our government actually got with the mob to have them kind of keep an eye on the harbors, the major harbors, you know, New York, Boston, and all up and down the East Coast and some in the West Coast. Because let's face it, there's nothing that moves on those docks back then that the mafia didn't know about. Everything was there. They knew who worked there, they knew who was supposed to be there, they knew what was coming in and what wasn't coming in, and they pretty well policed that. I think that's one reason why we didn't have any problem with any type of infiltration in World War II through our harbors. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. But anyway, if you think about J.F.K., Bobby, and Ted and Chappaquiddick, and the reason that Mary Jo Kopechne was an autopsy was never allowed on her, and think about it a little bit, I think it does make a lot of sense. Well, anyway, that there's all I have to say for this morning. Anyway, have a nice day.